Mom.
Yeah, we are live now.
Yeah. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Great.
Welcome. And we'll have Kirti. Will be singing on Chaurashtakam. Bhakti Kirti.
Praje prasidam navanitajauram gopangananam chadukula-chauram aneka-janmarjita-papa-chauram chauragraganyam purusham namami Shriradhikaya hridayasya chauram Navambudashyamalakanti-chauram Padashritanam cha samasta-chauram Chauragraganyam purusham namami Akinchanikritya padashritam ya Karoti bhikshum patigehahinam Kenapi yaho bishana chorayetrik Drishta shruto va na jagattrayepi Yadiyanama api haritya eshasham Giri prasaranapi paparashin Ascharya rupo nanu chorayetrik Drishta shruto va na maya kadapi Dhanam jamanam jatatendriyani pranam shahitva mama sarvameva palaya se kutra dritodya chaura tvam bhakti damnasi maya niruddha Chinati Goram Yamapasha Bandam Binati Bhimam Bhavapasha Bandam Chinati Sarvasya Samasta Bandam Naivatmano Bhakta Kritam Tu Bandam Manamanase Tamasarashi Gore Karagrihe Dukkamaye Nibaddha Labasya he chora hare chiraya Svachaurya dosho chitame vadandam Karagrihe vasa sada hridaye madhye Bhakti mad bhakti pashadrida bandhana nishchalasan Tvam Krishna he pralaya koti satantarepi Sarvasva he chora hridayan nahi mochayami I offer my respectful obeisances to that foremost of thieves who is famous in Vraja as the butter thief, and he who steals the gopis' clothes, and who, for those who take shelter of him, steals the sins which have accrued over many lifetimes. I offer my respectful obeisances to the foremost of thieves who steals Srimati Radhika's heart, who steals the dark luster of a fresh rain cloud, and who steals all the sins and sufferings of those who take shelter of his feet. He turns his surrendered devotees into paupers and wandering homeless beggar, alas. Such a fearsome thief has never been seen or heard of in all the three worlds. Mere utterance of his name purges one of a mountain of sins. Such an astonishingly wonderful thief I have never seen or heard of anywhere. O thief, having stolen my wealth, my honor, my senses, and my life, and my everything, where can you run to? I have caught you with the rope of my devotion. You cut the terrible noose of Yamaraja, you sever the dreadful noose of material existence, and you slash everyone's material bondage, but you are unable to cut the knot fastened by your own loving devotees. O stealer of my everything, O thief, today I have imprisoned you in the miserable prison house of my heart, which is fearful due to the terrible darkness of my ignorance, and therefore a very long time you will remain receiving appropriate punishment for your crimes of thievery. O Krishna, thief of my everything, the noose of my devotion remaining forever tight, you will continue to reside in the prison house of my heart, because I will not release you for millions of ages.
Chaurashtakam ki Jai. Bhakti Kirtin ki Jai. Nice, Kirti. You want to do Hare Krishna for 4 minutes? Do it. Come on.
I do the Nandanashtakam.
Can she do Nanda Nandanashtakam, Prabhu?
Whatever she wants.
Sucharuvakramandalam Sukarnaratnakundalam Sucharchitangachandanam Namami Nandanandanam Sudirghanetra Pankajam Shikishikandamurdajam Anangakoti Mohanam Namami Nandanandanam Sunasigarga Mautikam Swachandadanta Panktikam Navambudanga Chikkanam Namami Nandanandanam Karena Venu Ranjitam Gati Karindra Ganjitam Dukula Pita Shobhanam Namami Nandanandanam Tribangadeha Sundaram Akadyuti Sudakaram Amulya Ratna Bhushanam Namami Nandanandanam Sugandha Anga Saurabham Uro Virajikostabham Spura Krivatsalanjanam Namami Nandanandanam Vrindavana Sunagaram Vilasanugavasasam Surendra Garbhamochanam Namami Nandanandanam Vrajangana Sunayakam Sadasukha Pradayakam Jaganmana Pralobanam Namami Nandanandanam Srinandanandanashtakam Vatedya Shraddhaya Vita Tared
Bhavabdim Dustaram.
Labetarangri Yugamukam.
Do you want to read translation?
I don't know.
Here it is.
I offer pranama to Nandananda. I offer my pranama to Nandanandana, whose face is extremely delightful, and whose beautiful ears hang jeweled earrings, and whose entire body is anointed with fragrant chandana. I offer pranama to the Nandanandana, whose eyes are more beautiful than the fully bloomed lotus, whose head is beautifully adorned with an arrangement of peacock feathers, and who enchants millions of cupids. I offer pranama to Nandanandana, from whose beautiful nose hangs an elephant pearl, whose teeth are immensely effulgent, whose bodily complexion is more beautiful and lustrous than a fresh rain cloud. I offer pranama to Nandanandana, whose lotus hands hold the flute, whose lingering gait defeats even that of impassioned elephant, and whose dark limbs are beautified by a yellow shawl. I offer my pranama to Nandanandana, whose threefold bending posture is exquisitely elegant, the effulgence of whose toenails put to shame of even the moon, and whose ears invaluable jewels and ornaments. I offer pranama to Nandanandana, whose body exudes an especially beautiful fragrance, and whose broad chest is adorned with the Kaustubha jewel and the mark of Shivatsa. I offer pranama to Nandanandana, the expert lover of Vrindavana, who performs immaculate pastimes, and who is attired in clothes which are suitable for those pastimes, and who pulverized the pride of Indra. I offer pranama to Nandanandana, who as the lover of the Vraja Gopis perpetually delights them, and who enchants the minds of all living entities. Whoever regularly recites this Sri Nandanandanashtakam will easily cross the seemingly insurmountable ocean of material existence and attain eternal residence at the lotus feet of Krishna.
Jai. Thank you, Kirti. Thank you very much. Oh, I see Rukmini Mataji. Hare Krishna. Welcome to ISKCON Columbus Sunday Feast program. Today, it's we just invoke the class starting from Kirti's wonderful melodious voice with the Chaurashtakam and Namaskram. It was very nice. Thank you, Kirti. And we all welcome you for the next part of the program, which is a talk will be given by Her Grace Rukmini Devi Mataji. So those who doesn't know about Rukmini Mataji, she is one of the person who was born as a devotee and started her Krishna consciousness life from very beginning, since her birth, I mean to say. So it was like a couple of decades she was into ISKCON and Krishna consciousness philosophy. So she is well versed in the Shastras and she's a great scholar, and she read almost all the books of Prabhupada and several acharyas. So it's very fortunate to have her association today with us. So we'll invite Rukmini Mataji to take over from here. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction. I'm actually still trying to be a devotee, but it was just my causeless good fortune to have a lot of association of devotees from early on. So I'll start with Jai Radha Madhava. ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So thank you for inviting me to speak. I'm speaking just to purify myself. I'm just trying to become a devotee. And so we've heard from our Guru Varga that if we speak what we've heard, then we have a good chance of being able to pay attention and remember it and practice it. So I'm trying to offer my respects at the lotus feet of all of you, and hope to share what we've heard from Guru Varga. So now let me begin sharing my screen. Share. And it should be in slideshow. All right, is everyone seeing it? Great.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so today the talk will be about multiple Mahajanas. So first, the auspicious invocation. Granther arambe kori mangalacharam, Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan tiner smaran. Tiner smarane hoy vigna binashan, anayashe hoy nijoban chitapuran. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. So first, the need for Mahajanas is given in this verse spoken by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and quoting from Mahabharata. Tarko pratishta shrutayo vibhinna nasa vrishir yasya matang nabhinnam dharmasya tatvang nihitang guhayang mahajano yena gatah sapantha. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, dry arguments are inconclusive. A great personality whose opinion does not differ from others is not considered a great sage. Simply by studying the Vedas, which are variegated, one cannot come to the right path by which religious principles are understood. The solid truth of religious principles is hidden in the heart of an unadulterated, self-realized person. And it's a very picturesque phrase. Nihitam guhayam. It's hidden in the recesses of the heart. They're like, caves where these truths are hidden. So consequently, as the Shastras confirm, one should accept whatever progressive path the Mahajanas advocate. Mahajano yena gatah sapantha. So the path that is traversed by the Mahajanas, that is what is the path that we should follow. So this verse is very appropriate for many of us, many a time, when we find that there are many different truths in the scriptures, and sometimes it seems that one truth which is given in one place seems to be in tension with another truth which is given in another place. So first of all, when we're reading the scriptures, then we may be confused about, well, wait, didn't it say elsewhere this other thing? So just reading, we may be confused. And then in particular, when we're trying to apply them practically in our life, then we may be even more confused, because then we don't know which of these multiple statements that have different angles onto the situation, which of them are we supposed to follow? And sometimes if there are multiple people who have a favorite statement, then they can get into tarka. Tarka is argument. So this is dry argument. And so here Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that dry arguments are inconclusive, that if we just argue, then we may not actually arrive at a conclusion. And so anyone who has had to submit a thesis for a master's degree or a doctorate knows that one is supposed to present original work. And so one can't just repeat whatever has previously been done. And it appears that even thousands of years ago, when Yudhishthira was speaking the Mahabharata, this was also true, that if one didn't say something different from other people, then one wouldn't be considered a great sage, let alone a great scholar. And an interesting thing about this verse, so this is the verse reference that is given in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vanaparva, chapter 313, verse 117. And there are so many different versions of Mahabharata that even the chapter number where this verse is not always the same, let alone the verse number. And there's slightly different variants of this second line. So it's almost like this verse is an example of itself, that one can read or hear many different things. So what is the way out? The way out is to follow the path of the Mahajanas, the great souls who have, or here it's described as the unadulterated, self-realized persons. So are there any Mahajanas? So there is a list of 12 Mahajanas that is given by Yamaraj. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3, verse 20. He says, Swayambhur Narada Shambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu Prahlado Janako Bhishmo Balirvaya Sakirvayam. So Yamaraj said, Lord Brahma, Bhagavan Narada, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras, Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, Swayambhuva Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, Grandfather Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, and I myself know the real religious principle. So I myself is being Yamaraj. And the context is, so in the course of this talk, I will refer to many different stories, and because there's many different stories, I will have to refer to each of them briefly. And because these stories are often about complicated situations, if you don't know the story, it may be confusing. So please take that as an invitation to read the Shastra and hear more about these stories, or read about them yourself. They're all very interesting. So in this case, there was a situation where Yamaraj, who is in charge of celestial law enforcement and the judiciary. So he had sent his delegates, the Yamadutas, to retrieve a person who was at the point of death. So he was supposed to, he is in charge of meting out justice, karma in the universe. And so he had sent his delegates to go arrest this person, Ajamil. And then there was a dispute, and you can read about that in the 6th canto. And the Vishnu Dutas, who are delegates directly of the Supreme Lord, they came and told the Yamadutas that they were wrong to arrest this person, Ajamil, because even though he had committed many different terrible activities during the course of his life, he had chanted the holy names of the Lord. And this had, so therefore he was to be set free to continue his life. So that's what happened. So these Yamadutas, they're delegates, so they're under a Mahajan, Yamaraj. And so they had received instructions from him about their duty, what they were to do. And when the Vishnu Dutas appeared on the scene, then they explained that according to these instructions of Yamaraj, this is what they were supposed to do, and they were doing their duty, and they were following. And who were they following? They were following actually a Mahajan himself, Yamaraj. They were following one of the 12 Mahajanas. So when they came back, they were very confused, and they said, we thought that you were the supreme authority. How come these other people came and they defeated us, and they contradicted us, and they defeated us in argument? What's going on? So this is when Yamaraj said that there are multiple people who know the real religious principle, and he names these 12 Mahajanas. And so let's go over this list again. Brahma, Narada, Shiva, the Kumaras, Kapila, the son of Devahuti, who is actually the Lord himself, Swayambhuva Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Shukadev Goswami, and then Yamaraj himself. So these are 12. Now, are these the only 12 Mahajanas? Well, these are 12 that he listed. And sorry, I thought I had a different slide there, but there are more Mahajanas. For instance, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was quoting that verse about following the path of the Mahajanas, he was quoting it because there was some rule that there was some dispute about whether he should do something. And he said, I will follow the footsteps of a particular Mahajan, Madhavendra Puri, who was his guru's guru, his Param Guru. So he considered him, he said that Madhavendra Puri is a Mahajana, and so he did this, so therefore I will follow his example. I will follow in his footsteps, and that's the course of action I will take. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said in his song, Nadia Gudrume, so the song begins, Nadia Gudrume Nityananda Mahaja, Patya Chinama Hattu Jibera Karam, in Nadia Gudrum Nityananda the Great, has spread the market of the name for all beings' sake. So there Nityananda Prabhu is being called a Mahajan, and there are, of course, many Mahajanas. So the question that is the subject of this talk is, why are there more than one Mahajan? So the very first person on this list of Mahajanas is Lord Brahma, who is the creator, and from whom everyone or most beings in this universe are descended from. So we can think that, okay, well, and he is in fact the leader of our particular spiritual lineage, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, is Lord Brahma. So therefore, we take spiritual knowledge from him. So then why do there need to be, here there's a list of 11 more Mahajanas, and then there's more and more, and that I just mentioned. Why are there multiple Mahajanas? And the answer is that in order to understand how to apply philosophy that is given in scriptures and that is given by our teachers, we need to understand many angles of vision. So the key to understanding the spiritual philosophy is Guru Sadhu Shastra. The Guru, our teacher, can explain, and the Guru explains in terms of Shastra, the scriptures, which are given by the Lord and the previous teachers. And then there's also sadhus. Sadhus are holy people or saints, and these are, for example, Mahajanas. Mahajanas are some of the sadhus. Now, some of the sadhus are kind of reclusive, so it would be hard to say that whether, so then, it would be hard for some people to know that they're Mahajanas. But Mahajanas are sadhus. So we need help from many different directions in order to understand the scriptures themselves, the conclusions of the scripture, and also particularly how to apply them. Now, in general, if we have a question, the best thing to do is to ask. We can ask our guru. That's always and that can resolve our doubts. That's the quality of the guru. That's one of the qualities of the guru is that they are able to answer our questions, and they're able to answer our doubts and resolve them, and both scriptural questions and practical questions. That's their quality. And a guru is Desh Kal Patragya, which means that the guru is able to ascertain time, place, and circumstances. However, many of us find that we're not able, for one reason or other, to ask our guru constantly about everything that we might have a question about. So, for instance, for some of us, like myself, my gurus have departed from this world, and that's the case for some of the people in our Columbus community also. And even if our gurus are present, to ask them directly constantly is not necessarily practical. So we are also to gain understanding, resources for this understanding ourselves. So this phrase, many angles of vision, was a very favorite phrase of Srila Prabhupada. And I almost wanted to title my talk, Many Angles of Vision. However, I felt like multiple Mahajanas was more alliterative. So in the course of this talk, I'll describe some tools for understanding and applying the philosophy in confusing situations, or when the scriptures themselves may be confusing. And so in the course of this talk, I will be referring to a paper on hermeneutics, which is basically the application of philosophy, that was put out by the Shastric Advisory Council, and it was approved by the GBC at the GBC meetings. I think it was in February. And so I will be referring to some of the tools that, so they gave a list of 24 principles and 40 tools for this task. And I'll only be referring to a few of them. So I'll first just verbally tell you a few of them, but then mostly I'll be telling stories and talking about how we can use them. So first of all, the most important tool is, and so I'm referring to this list. So these are numbers in this list. Tool 29 is prayer, surrender, and waiting for revelation. So this is the first, the last, and the foundational tool is that we need to have a humble mood, and we may need to understand that I may not be able to understand at this point of time. Like, so I'll just pray, and I'll wait for some more guidance or clarity to come from above. So this is the fundamental tool, and it's more of an internal process. So I won't speak about it so much, but in the rest of this talk, but I will I want to just highlight that that's the essential basis. But the tools I'll be talking about is primarily tool 26, which is we should understand Shastra from many angles of vision. And Srila Prabhupada wrote that in the vase there is a variety, so this is in Science of Self-Realization. In the vase there is a variety of flowers, and that variety helps us better appreciate the idea of flowers. From any point of view, Krishna can resolve all problems. So he emphasized unity and diversity. So when there's multiple angles, then and they come together, then that can help us solve our problems. And then tools 22 and 23 are about context. So tool 22 is look for any way in which Guru, Sadhu, Shastra define historical or cultural context. And tool 23 is consider one's own cultural and individual perspectives along with one's life experiences. So basically, every principle and every statement has a particular context. There's some principles that are true in all contexts, but many of the scriptural statements or the scriptural instructions or the examples of actions of devotees, they're applicable in a particular context. And finally, the final one that I'm going to speak about is tool 18, study holistically and repeatedly. So if we take one tiny piece of a statement of scripture or one tiny part of a story, then we may not get the whole context. So in order to study holistically, we do have to study repeatedly, because at each point, as we're reading, we don't have the whole context until we've read the whole thing. But then to understand each part in context, we have to have known the whole thing. So then we come back and read again, and at that point we have the whole context, and then we see each part in its context. And then if you do this again and again, then more and more angles of the context will be seen. So now let's go to examples. So here's an example from one of the Mahajanas mentioned, Swayambhuva Manu. So this verse says very briefly what happened. So I'll just read the verse. When Swayambhuva Manu saw that his grandson Dhruva Maharaj was killing so many of the yakshas who were not actually offenders, out of his great compassion, he approached Dhruva with great sages to give him good instruction. So fortunately, this purport tells the story in brief, so I'll just also read the purport. Dhruva Maharaj attacked Alakapuri, the city of the Yakshas, because his brother was killed by one of them. Actually, only one of the citizens, not all of them, was guilty of killing his brother Uttama. Dhruva Maharaj, of course, took a very serious step when his brother was killed by the Yakshas. War was declared and the fighting was going on. This sometimes happens in present days also. For one man's fault, a whole state is sometimes attacked. This kind of wholesale attack is not approved by Manu, the father and lawgiver of the human race. He therefore wanted to stop his grandson Dhruva from continuing to kill the Yaksha citizens who were not offenders. Now, before beginning this battle, Dhruva Maharaj had taken permission from great sages, and then he had started. And then it turned out that he was going on, and he was almost going to kill all of them. Like, it was going to be a genocide of the Yakshas. And so Swayambhuva Manu came and intervened. So one reason why there are multiple Mahajanas is that different Mahajanas are appropriate in different contexts. So in this context, Dhruva was in the middle of this horrendous battle. And so Mahajanas such as the four Kumaras, who, if you may know, they're celibate sages who always appear as if they're 5 years old. If it wouldn't be appropriate for them to come and step into the middle of this battle, in order to stop the person who is, killing everyone in sight. So Swayambhuva Manu was the emperor, the previous emperor, and the kingdom had succeeded to Dhruva's father and then to Dhruva. And one of the reasons that the dharma is that one is supposed to retire in good order and have a succession is that one can then give advice from a detached position. So Swayambhuva Manu had been in the same position of being in charge of the government. So therefore he had that experience and expertise about battle and justice. And he was the person he was also Dhruva Maharaj's own grandfather. So he was in the position to give Dhruva Maharaj that good advice. That was this Mahajan Swayambhuva Manu. So that's an example where there's, this is fairly early in history, in the history that is told by the Bhagavatam, but already there were multiple Mahajanas existing, and Swayambhuva Manu was the most appropriate Mahajana for this particular situation. Then here's an example where one could take a Shastric statement out of context and be very confused. So Sage Narada is one of the 12 Mahajanas that Yamaraj named. And we could take this statement. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 24, verse 247, where Narada Muni is speaking to the hunter Mrigari, and he's telling him, I beg you that from this day on you will kill animals. And this seems very confusing and contradictory, that our that in many places we're told to engage in ahimsa or nonviolence and to have karuna or compassion, mercy. So, and Sage Narada is a renowned saintly person. He's just a monk who wanders everywhere and is teaching many people many things. So why is he telling this hunter, I beg you that from this day on you will kill animals? Well, this could seem very odd if we take it out of context. But in this case, if we read the whole verse, the other part of the statement, we may get an inkling. The whole statement is, I beg you that from this day on you will kill animals completely and not leave them half dead. So this is a particular situation where Mrigari the hunter, he actually would shoot animals purposely in such a way that they wouldn't die, but that they would die very slowly. They would be suffering for a long time before death. And he had been taught this by his father. His father had also been a hunter, and he enjoyed watching their pain. So in other words, he was abusing the animals. He took pleasure in their suffering. Perhaps it gave him some kind of sense of power. And so Narada Muni, being the enlightened sage who could see what is appropriate to a circumstance, he could see that if he said right away that just don't kill animals at all, then that would not work. And in fact, if you go and find this story, there's more to it. And when he does say that, then the hunter gives reasons why he can't do that. But then eventually, the hunter gives up hunting completely. But the first thing he says is, kill them completely and don't leave them half dead. So in this situation, in these circumstances, this is the statement. Now, that doesn't mean that anyone can just pull this statement into a completely different situation and say, well, Narada Muni said to kill animals, so therefore I can kill animals. Everything has a context and a situation where it applies. So the next couple of stories relate to a couple of thorny scriptural directives. So this is a scriptural directive that we have in Nectar of Devotion, chapter 9. And so this Nectar of Devotion, it was written by Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and then Nectar of Devotion is the summary study by Srila Prabhupada. So these are words of Prabhupada. So on the one hand, he says, a Vaishnav may be very tolerant and meek, foregoing everything for his personal honor, but when it is a question of the honor of Krishna or his devotee, he will not tolerate any insult. There are three ways of dealing with such insults. If someone is heard blaspheming by words, one should be so expert that he can defeat the opposing party by argument. If he is unable to defeat the opposing party, then the next step is that he should not just stand there meekly, but should give up his life. The third process is followed if he is unable to execute the above-mentioned two processes, and this is that he must leave the place and go away. If a devotee does not follow any of the above-mentioned three processes, he falls down from his position of devotion. So that seems like a very cut and dried statement. But on the other hand, there's this other statement by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur in the biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is our preceptor in our lineage, and then this is the first biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Vrindavan Das Thakur, who says, one who, taking the side of one Vaishnava, blasphemes or criticizes another Vaishnava, goes to ruin. And Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur considered this so important that he repeated almost the identical verse 4 times in the Chaitanya Bhagavat. So then in practice, suppose that one is trying to get into an argument because one thinks that one person is insulting the other person, and and one thinks that a Vaishnav has been insulted, then one could easily get into this situation of criticizing the other Vaishnava, which is what Vrindavan Das Thakur has said is a ruinous situation. So then these multiple scriptural directives, they become, thorny to balance. What is one supposed to do? So generally, the safest thing is to leave, and so many people may leave, but then sometimes that's not actually possible or desirable. So let's then look at how this situation applies in a couple different stories and with a couple Mahajanas involved. So the first situation is Draupadi's plea. So I believe many of you know the context of this story already. So so I'll only say it briefly, that Draupadi was brought to the assembly of the Kurus. So the Kurus are pictured over here, after they had won a gambling match against her husbands, the Pandavas. So the Pandavas are here, and the reason they're disrobed is everything has been lost. They themselves have been lost, and their ornaments and everything have been lost. And then their wife, Draupadi, they claim, the Kurus claimed that she had also been lost, but she did not, she disputed that. But then one of them is then attempting to disrobe her. So before this had happened, she had pleaded with the people in the assembly that this was unjust, that they should not be able to do this. And so here in the assembly is the father of these Kurus, Dhritarashtra, is sitting on the throne, and here is grandfather Bhishma. So Bhishma is one of the 12 Mahajanas that was named in that verse. And there was another Mahajana of those 12 Mahajanas present. So can anyone tell me who else of those 12 Mahajanas was present in this assembly?
Vidura.
Yes, exactly. Vidura is the same as, so that was Naveen Krishna Prabhu, I think? Or anyway, whoever said
Yes,
that.
it's me.
Thank you, Naveen Krishna Prabhu. So yes, Vidura had was an incarnation of Yamaraj. So these two people, Bhishma and Vidura, acted differently in this situation. And so in particular, Draupadi had asked, that this is unjust, and why is no one speaking up against this injustice? And Bhishma remained completely silent. And then afterward, Vidura, who is a brother of King Dhritarashtra, remonstrated with King Dhritarashtra and said that what you were doing is wrong. These are your own family members. Please stop this. Dhritarashtra himself had not responded to Draupadi's pleas earlier, but Vidura did speak up. And so one may say, okay, well, so this is definitely a situation where a devotee is being insulted. In fact, this whole scene is called the insulting of Draupadi, and it was also insulting to the Pandavas. They're all being insulted. And so in this situation, so how is it that Bhishma is staying silent? So Vidura is a devotee, and he's the brother of Dhritarashtra, and then he pleaded with him. And as a result of that, Dhritarashtra came to his senses and then tried to make up for this incident. So then we have to know the context of this situation. And the context, as many of us know, is that Bhishma was the person who was the direct son of King Shantanu, and he was the rightful heir to this throne on which Dhritarashtra was sitting. And as a result of, so it's a long story, so I will just be brief, that when King Shantanu wanted to marry Satyavati, then Bhishma made a promise to Satyavati's father that he would not take the throne, and he himself would not have any descendants, and he would only serve the throne. So subsequently, then Dhritarashtra is the grandson of Satyavati. And so Dhritarashtra was born blind. So he could not be a warrior And on the other hand, Bhishma was a very great warrior and also knew much about ruling the kingdom. He knew so much that most of the Mahabharata is actually the instructions of Bhishma to Yudhishthira about how to rule the kingdom. So he was clearly very qualified. And so to observe the spirit and not just the letter of his vow, he had to be very, very careful about interceding with Dhritarashtra, because it would be very easy for people to consider Bhishma as the ruler and for Dhritarashtra to be a figurehead. And so he was in a particular context where he actually needed to remain silent. And yet, so elsewhere in the Bhagavatam, we know that he's a great devotee, he's a pure devotee, and that he was always wanting to please Krishna, and that also the Pandavas were also very dear to him. So this is a particular situation where he did remain silent, despite these thorny directives that we saw before. Now the next example, a different example, is where King Citraketu was cursed by Parvati. So to briefly state the situation, Lord Shiva was speaking in an assembly of sages, and he had Parvati on his lap. And so he was just sitting, if I recall correctly, he was not completely dressed either. And he was sitting with Parvati on his lap, and King Citraketu, who had become quite advanced, was going by in his Viman, his airplane, and he saw this happening, and he thought this was kind of funny that, he's, I mean, this is basically like, so if someone is on Zoom and they're not wearing any pants, so, Lord Shiva is giving this talk, and he's just hanging out and chilling with his wife. So King Citraketu, laughed about this. He thought this was humorous, and Lord Shiva took that in good spirit, and he also he smiled. He also took this in good humor, and so Lord Shiva did not feel insulted by King Citraketu laughing at him. So this is a case where if we read the Srimad Bhagavatam about this situation, then in one place, Srila Prabhupada is writing that there was no offense in King Citraketu's heart. He didn't intend any disrespect to Lord Shiva. He just thought it was funny. And Lord Shiva also did not consider that he also knew that, King Citraketu was also did not mean any offense. So then the question is, was there any offense? So this is a subtle point about offense towards Vaishnavas, that it's not actually the Vaishnava who feels the offense. Even though it is the Vaishnava whom one has to ask for forgiveness, the Vaishnava is not the one who necessarily feels any offense. The Vaishnava is, they're more tolerant than a tree, they're humbler than a blade of grass, and they don't want any honor for themselves. They're always giving honor to others. So it's actually very hard to make them feel offended. It's Krishna who feels offended on behalf of the Vaishnava. So it's the loved one of the Vaishnava who feels offended. So if we don't know whether we've offended a Vaishnava, just notice that, just imagine that Krishna is the Vaishnava's loved one. Would the loved one feel offended? So in this case, Parvati cursed King Citraketu, and as a result of that, then King Citraketu had to take birth as Vritrasura, and that's a very long story. And she addressed him as my son, and being the mother of the universe, she could address him as her son. And then she gave this curse for his doing this offense. Now, why was there an offense? Well, one thing is that even though, they're just joking between the two of them, there's actually this whole assembly of sages. And so if he's disrespecting Lord Shiva, or could be seen to be disrespecting Lord Shiva, by any person in the assembly, then that could be seen to be disrespectful, even if he didn't mean any disrespect, and even if Lord Shiva didn't consider it as disrespect. So Lord Shiva could not correct that situation and didn't feel like correcting that situation. But it's only another Vaishnava, in this case Vaishnavi, who could correct that. So that was Parvati, and she gave this curse in order for quick correction. And so so that's an example where Lord Shiva, being a Mahajana, he was silent, and we could say, oh, well, this Mahajana is silent, therefore everyone should be silent. But in this case, he is in a different context. He's the one who is being insulted, whereas she's in the context of being the third party who witnesses the insult. So the being in the context of the third party is different from being in the context of the person who receives the insult. And so here's another story that involves multiple Mahajanas, and this is more of a fun story. So Narada Muni had wanted so this is a story that is told in Chaitanya Mangal by Lochan Das Thakur. It's also a biography of our preceptor, Lord Chaitanya, and it's in the Sutrakanda, I think chapter 2 of that biography. So Narada Muni, who is again one of the 12 Mahajanas, and here's Lord Shiva, who's another of the 12 Mahajanas. Narada Muni had gotten Mahaprasad directly from Lord Vishnu, or actually he kind of snuck it. He went and asked Lakshmi Devi, while Vishnu was not there, if he could have some Mahaprasad. And she said, well, he doesn't like to give out his Mahaprasad, but then she snuck him some. And then Narada Muni was very happy to get some, and then he tasted it, and he was ecstatic. And then he was so ecstatic that after obtaining this Mahaprasad, then he went to Kailash, and he told his brother, Lord Shiva, about this story, that, wow, I got the Mahaprasad. And then Lord Shiva is like, what? You got the Mahaprasad and you didn't give me any? And then Narada Muni was like, oh, I guess I should have. And then he realized he had a little bit of a morsel of Mahaprasad left. There was some basically stuck to the container that he had it in. So then he gave that last morsel of Mahaprasad to Lord Shiva. And then Lord Shiva ate that morsel, and then he became so ecstatic that he started dancing and dancing and dancing in ecstasy. And he was dancing, and as we know, that Lord Shiva is the Lord of destruction, and so his dancing is very powerful. And so then the earth, Bhumi Devi, was saying, wait a minute, this dance is really shaking me, and this is a problem. So then she approached Parvati, the wife of Lord Shiva, and asked her to intervene. And then Parvati came and asked what was going on. And well, first she intervened by speaking some strong words to Lord Shiva. And then Lord Shiva said, why did you stop me? You're not my well-wisher. I was in such ecstasy, and now I'm not in ecstasy anymore. So then she explained that this was the problem. And then Lord Shiva said, oh yes. And she asked for his forgiveness for stopping him. And then he said, oh yes, you're right. So then she asked, well, I see that you're speaking with Narada, but you don't dance so ecstatically every day. What happened? And so then he explained what had happened. And then she became very sad, and she said, up until now, I thought that you were very kind and merciful to me, but you too, you got this Mahaprasad and you didn't save even one bit for me, your wife. Up until now, I thought that I'm one half of your own body, and then you didn't give me one little bit. I'm not going to be unkind like you. When I get Mahaprasad, I will distribute it I will make sure that it is distributed to the entire universe. And then, so I'm just, to make a long story short, Lord Vishnu said, yes, Parvati Devi, I will fulfill your promise. So in the future, I will come as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and I will distribute the holy name to the entire universe. So this is the reason that this story is being told in Chaitanya Mangal, is that thanks to Parvati Devi's promise, the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming to everyone, including fallen souls like myself. So that's one nice story of multiple Mahajanas. So I'll conclude with a little bit about, so I said at the beginning that we need to have a prayerful mood. And also there is a particular, this intelligence of how to apply the philosophy has a particular name. It's a particular kind of intelligence. It's called medha. So we just heard wonderful songs and recitation by Bhakti and Kirti, so that before this talk started. So here's one verse that starts with Kirti. So this is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, verse 34. Shri Krishna says, Kirti Shrilvak Chanarina Smritir Medha Driti Kshama. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience. So it's helpful to look at the word for word, that the word used for intelligence that's being translated as intelligence in this verse is a particular kind of intelligence called medha. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains what is this intelligence. And he says, and the ability not only to read many books on different subject matters, but to understand them and apply them when necessary is intelligence, medha. And this definition goes back to our acharyas. If I remember correctly, it's Baladev Vidyabhushan. In his commentary, he gives this same definition. So this is medha, and so medha is one of the shaktis of the Lord. In fact, the acharyas say that all these seven women are these different devis. These Kirti, Shri, Vak, and so forth. They are devis, and medha is a devi, a shakti. And so we pray, and so the way that we can get that shakti is by praying to the Sarva Shaktiman. So a shakti is a potency, and the holder of the potency is the Lord, Shri Krishna. So we pray to Lord Krishna, and as I said at the beginning, that in my auspicious invocation, Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan. Guru, the spiritual master, the Vaishnavas, the devotees, and Bhagavan, the Lord. If we remember all three of these, then we will get whatever our desire will be fulfilled, and in particular, we'll be able to get this medha. And medha is very important for this Sankirtan movement. So here's this famous verse about the Sankirtan movement. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam Sangopanga Strapashadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayay Yajantihi Sumedhasa. So it says, in the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead who constantly sings the names of Krishna. And what is this? What kind of intelligence do these intelligent persons have? They are sumedhasa. They have medha. So if we pray for medha, then we can also help in spreading, and all collectively, all together, we can engage in this spreading of this Sankirtan movement. So in particular, I pray to all of you, Vanchakalpatrubhascha Kripasindubhe Vachapatidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah, to help me to develop this ability to understand and apply the scriptures. And so thank you for your attention, and please, if there are any questions, please. I guess, I don't know if Naveen Krishna Prabhu or Sadhu Chaitanya Prabhu will manage that.
Chandra Prabhu,
And I'll stop
are
sharing.
you having a question, Prabhu? Looks like Chandra Prabhu is having a question. Chandrabana Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
Are you asking a question?
I can ask since you asked.
Yeah.
So,
I saw you're unmuted. So,
Mataji, very nice class. Thank you very much. Just one question. How does Vignan relate to these Medas? Is there any particular difference? We hear a lot from Srila Prabhupada that Gnan and Vignan, and then Vignan is also applying that knowledge.
Right. So Gyan is kind of theoretical. Vigyan is, I think he usually translates it as realized knowledge. And there's actually a whole taxonomy of knowledge. So perhaps Gyan, which there's also Vidya, which is also a bit of more realized knowledge. So there's basically knowledge sort of percolates, from our head to our heart, and there's various stages through which it percolates. So when we first read it or hear it, then it may be Gyan and it's theoretical. And then as we repeatedly read it, as we hear it from different sadhus who give their own angles, and as we also see that it's applied in different contexts, and also as we ourselves apply it, or especially as we learn about the lives of the Vaishnavas, then Gyan becomes Vigyan. And then it becomes possible for us to apply it ourselves by following in the footsteps of the Vaishnavas. And Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave an example. He said that there may be two people who know a mansion very well. There's the architect who has built the mansion, and then there's the rich person who's going to live in the mansion. And so each of them knows every room of the mansion, but is their knowledge the same? No. The person who actually lives in the mansion, they will understand it in a different way than the architect. So by actually living the philosophy, we develop understanding. And then by studying the lives of the Vaishnavas, by studying the example of the Vaishnavas, then also we understand it more and more. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for that question.
What are you saying? The difference between Vignan and Medha?
So Medha is the intelligence that allows us to apply knowledge from different sources in the right context. And then Vigyan is the knowledge itself, but it's not just any knowledge, it's realized knowledge. So to put it briefly, the application of Medha to Gyan gradually turns it into Vigyan. But it's not like a categorical transformation. Like it keeps growing and growing, and as Medha is applied, then it becomes more and more Vigyan rather than just Gyan. So more and more practical knowledge and not just theoretical knowledge.
In other words, what is saying? Gnan, Vidya, Medha, they're all the same. And then same category. Vignan, realization, is a different category.
So there's two things. One is knowledge, and the other is intelligence. So knowledge can be Gyan, which is maybe abstract or theoretical and maybe not completely realized, or then it can be, and it's maybe more cerebral. And then Vigyan and Vidya, they're kind of similar. Vigyan and Vidya are more realized knowledge, so they're in the heart. And the process of going from theoretical, abstract knowledge to realized knowledge is mediated by Medha. Medha is what we use to get from here to here. Medha is this particular kind of intelligence.
And I have a comment based on that. Thank you very much. This is one of my favorite topic. 12 Mahajans is also very confusing for a lot of people, including me. So the 12 Mahajans, out of 12, 5 are brahmacharis and 7 are grihasthas.
Yes.
Yeah, it depends on different situation, it changes. then whom to select, whom to follow. It's very subjective. The same thing in our own daily life. Like in Prabhupada said, books are the basis, not the letters. So letters are specifically for some people at some situation, and some people take out of context. Even from the books we take, and Prabhupada said it, this happened, this is the case. That's correct. But what is the context?
Mhm.
So the confusion between, like, you gave an example of compassion versus efficiency. When to do compassion, when to do efficiency, making the discipline. That's another subject itself. So you touch few things is very nice, but one has to have a maturity as well as a connection to super soul to understand that and apply.
Mhm.
And otherwise, what happens? People can quote anything out of it. At the same time, other flip side of is that sahaja. That means I interpret this way.
Right.
This is what I feel. Krishna telling me, this is my understanding. That's another extreme of it.
Mhm.
So there is a great danger between both of them. That was a comment.
Yes, that's and one particular sort of subtle variation of that is that suppose that I feel like doing something, then I can go and ask this senior, that senior, and the other senior, and wait until I get someone who agrees with what I already want to do, and then say, oh, so and so told me that, so I can. So that's another. So we have to. So this is why this prayerful mood and sincere surrender is a very, as I said, is a very fundamental thing that we actually have to really sincerely be seeking the right course of action.
Conclusion, what my understanding based on this is, one has to be honest. So the objective is not self, I, me, mine, but the objective is to bring something good or transformation in others. And in that case, then you're saved, you will be protected. Otherwise, if I'm a dishonesty, even if I come across hard, even if I come across looking soft, but what is my objective? That will determine the factor. I'll be in the right path. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naveen Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sumitra Mataji has a question.
Hare Krishna Mataji, it's a very wonderful lecture. I have two questions. I'll start with the easy one first. The document that you were referencing to that's going to be put out by the Shastric Advisory Council on principles for application, is this something that's available in the public domain or will soon be available in the public domain? That's one question. And then the second one is the story of who is actually a Mahajan also one of redemption? Because when I was looking at it, I was really surprised that Bhishma was one of the Mahajans, despite his silence at the Draupadi Vastrahan. And Krishna also graces him with his presence, and there's the beautiful set of prayers in the Bhagavatam. So is this also a story of human frailty and in a sense forgiveness and redemption, about who becomes a Mahajan?
Thank you for those beautiful questions. So the first question about the document. So this document was approved by the GBC at that meeting, and they approved it. However, they did not approve its release, and they want there to be a course developed before it is released. And so the development of that course is going on. Well, actually, in the meantime, they've asked for another paper, so therefore the SAC is busy with that other paper. So basically there's some delay, but the intention is eventually that it will be released. And so I worked on the document as a secretary and just proofreading and diacritical marks. So that's how I had access to it. But I think that this is a really helpful topic, and so I wanted to share it with. And I also got a lot of, there are a lot of wonderful Vaishnavas who worked on that document who are members of that council. So I wanted to get some of their work out by sharing it here. Now the question about redemption. So to say in this particular instance whether it is a story of redemption, I wouldn't exactly be able to say, because that would require me to say to make an assessment, a specific assessment of whether what Bhishma had done at that point was right or wrong. However, it could be, and so there's this famous verse in Bhagavad Gita. There are verses, chapter 9, verses 30 and 31. So it begins, Api chet suduracha. So that's a very interesting phrase. So it says that even if a devotee is seen to be have committed abominable actions, they're still to be considered a devotee. And this word suduracharo, it's very interesting. So achar is conduct, durachar is bad conduct. So su can mean either very, so that would be very bad conduct, or it can be the prefix su usually means good. So it's like, this is conduct that it can be either very bad conduct, or it's conduct that is questionable, that it's, both good and bad. So the angle that I gave in the story was that, well, there is some reason for Bhishma's silence, that, there's a consideration. And so then one could argue whether in that situation he had made the correct decision or not. So the purport to that verse is also very interesting and illuminating. It is a complicated subject. And it says that devotees have from time to time accidental fall downs. And then in the next verse, verse 31, Shri Krishna says, Kauntaya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati, that, O son of Kunti, know that my devotee will never perish. So that despite these accidental fall downs from time to time, one who is Krishna's devotee is never, so pranashyati, they never meet destruction. Meaning that they, so then, even though there was this situation that was really terrible, that Krishna was still, Krishna loved the Pandavas, he loved Draupadi, he came and helped Draupadi in this particular instance, but that doesn't mean that therefore he destroyed Bhishma. I mean, so Bhishma did eventually meet death, but as you referred to at the in the course of his death, he prayed to see the beautiful four-handed form of Krishna, and he was granted that. So even someone who it seems is in something that we may perceive as had done something terrible, Krishna has the whole perspective on everything. The whole context has more perspective than any of us ever can. So that person may still be dear to Krishna. And so, and if there is an actual fall down, then Krishna can take care of it, and the person can come to redemption. And there's a process where they themselves can get guidance from their gurus in various cases, or in this case, Bhishma he actually experienced being completely pierced through with arrows. So after that, there was also a kind of a penance, one could say. Does that answer both of your questions?
It does. Thank you.
If there is no more question, I have a comment. What Sumitra Mataji was asking. Can I say a comment? Yeah. So based on Mahabharata, and Bhishma was sitting silent, and then eventually this conversation happened later on Mahabharata. This question is asked by Draupadi to Bhishma itself when he's in the area of bed. So why did he keep quiet? So he himself says that the reason I kept is because even though I know what to do, because I was being infected by the salt given, or in the sense the food was given by Duryodhana. It was maintained by Duryodhana. So that was actually become a poison. So because of that influenced me, I could not speak out. But your husband Arjuna punctured me with the arrows. So all the blood was passed. So that means then I came to consciousness that was wrong. I should have spoken. That's the reason I'm lying in the arrows of bed. So now my vision has come back. But did he say colloquially or philosophically? I don't know. But that was there in Mahabharata. So then eventually, that's the one thing. And it Praman for that is actually eventually later Srimad Bhagavatam also explained one of the lecture I heard when Priyavrat was found by Narada Muni that became a brahmachari. Then he went to brahmacharya ashram. He was meditating for many centuries. When his brother Dhanapadu got married and eventually his descendants was ruling his entire universe. But at one point, there's nobody to rule anymore. And then his father, Swayambhu Manu, come back and tell him that now time has come to procreate again, to lead the dynasty. And Priya says, no, I'm a brahmachari. My guru, Narada Muni, who is a Mahajan, told me not to get married. And then there were two Mahajans saying, one is getting married, Swayambhu Manu, his own father. Other Mahajan, Narada Muni, is telling Priyavrat not to marry. And then now that's where intervened Brahma comes. That's true. Both are right, but it's a higher power. I'm saying now time has come. You have to get married, have children, and rule the world. So he get married, and eventually his dynasty continued. How do we know this? There's four Mahajans here. So that's where it comes. Like that's Desakalapata, time, place, circumstances, maturity, and then authority. As I said, there's a 5 are brahmacharis and 12 Mahajans, 7 are grahasthas. So when, where, and how, that's where Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who understand this, they will never come to this world back. If you know, please let me know.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, and similarly, the same thing could be said of Dronacharya. So Dronacharya, he was the teacher of both the Kauravas and Pandavas. He taught them the arts of war. And yet, when the battle came, he had been living all that time in the Kuru capital, and he took the side of the Kurus. Whereas on the other hand, Balaram, who was he was a prince, and he taught Bhim and Duryodhan how to fight with the mace. First he tried to convince them not to fight with each other, and when he found that they would not be convinced and that there was going to be this horrendous battle in which they would fight with each other, then he actually renounced warriorship completely and he left on pilgrimage. So it is sort of the nature of being in government that one does have to fight on various sides, even though or maybe not fight, but even just argue on various sides, because that's the hurly-burly that things have to get done. But in the case of Dronacharya, being the teacher, he sort of got comfortable, I guess, and this perhaps because of his early attachment to Ashwatthama, and Ashwatthama, his son, had not had any milk, so then he was sort of a little too attached to not being poor. But for a teacher to be neutral, a teacher being a brahmana, so ideally the brahmana is not taking salt as from one party, as Naveen Krishna Prabhu referred to. So like Chanakya Pandit is the famous brahmana who is the advisor to Chandragupta Maurya, the emperor. However, he would not live within the capital. He lived outside of the capital in a hermitage very simply, and he would not be like the court Pandit who was maintained by the king. And so, because it's a very subtle and difficult to contradict the person on whom one's living depends. So.
Seems like there's a couple of questions, Mataji, in the chat.
Oh, should I read them, or should someone else read them?
Alec has a question, Mataji, so let him go first.
Okay, thank you, Sadhu Chaitanya Prabhu, and thank you, Mother Rukmini, for the wonderful class and also the beautiful presentation. So my question is that we know that that Lord Brahma is a post, and I think you may have covered it in your class, but I may have been zoned out. But Lord Brahma is a post, and many places Prabhupada is also explaining that how anyone who is qualified can also become Brahma, and probably next Brahma is Hanuman. And so does the Mahajan quality, or the title of Mahajan also goes along with the post, or is that the Brahma who is currently Brahma is given that Mahajans?
So I believe that in some cases, the person who is in the post needs to be a Mahajan, because that's part of the duty of that post. So for instance, the post of Brahma, the person should be a Mahajan because they're in the position of a Mahajan anyway. And similarly, the post of Yamaraj, the person needs to be a Mahajan to be in that post, because to carry out their duties, they have to yad yad acharati shreshtas, as the Bhagavad Gita says, that whatever actions a great man perform, common men follow. So if one is in a position that is a leadership position, then one may have to then one has to be in that post. But it's not necessarily the case that all of these. So for instance, the four Kumaras, the four Kumaras, that's what they just decided to do. I mean, Lord Brahma had these children in order to populate the universe, and was expecting them to grow up and get married, and instead they decided to remain brahmacharis, and they became Mahajanas, brahmachari Mahajanas. However, that wasn't a post that they were, they had the free choice. They could have taken the other post of being the progenitors. So it depends. Does that answer your question?
Yes, kind of. But I'm still. So you are saying that the post itself is the Mahajan. The post comes with the Mahajan title, and whoever becomes that personality must qualify to be a Mahajan also.
It's more like it's the job requirement is that only Mahajanas need apply. Like if you're not a Mahajana, then you can't have this post.
Okay, that explains. Thank you.
Matas, there are some couple of questions in the chat box if you want to go ahead with that.
So I see that there's one from Charutha. Does Charutha want to ask,
Yeah.
or should I just read the question?
Yeah, you can answer the question for that.
I can just read the question. Okay, so the
Yeah.
question is, I think there are two main types of intellect. Prajna is grasping power and Medha is retaining power to learn. Is that correct? And thank you for your kind words. So, yes, Medha is often contrasted with another type of intellect that is a bit more, and sometimes that's, so the contrast that I've seen more often is buddhi. It may be similar to what you're saying about prajna. So buddhi is kind of more analytical, so it can dissect, all these different distinctions, and it's very sharp and can grasp things. And yes, so there can be more about medha. So what this definition from Baladev Vidyabhushan of knowing what to apply at the right time, that can be that can be sort of the ultimate test of retaining power to learn. So there can be someone who memorizes many different shlokas, and then theoretically speaking, the person may throw the shloka at exactly the wrong time. So then the person would have a lot of retention. Like if you ask them what is this shloka, then they can tell you, and they always know the shloka. But then if whatever is the context, that they always produce the wrong shloka for that context. So for Medha, one has to know when to apply the thing. So it's a little bit more than just retaining, but it's also application. So there's something called Bloom's taxonomy. You may want to look it up. So there's various levels of understanding, and so there's a very basic level is just being able to repeat what one has heard. And then there's more and more deeper levels, and then the deepest level is being able to apply what one has learned. So that's so the ability to get to that deepest level is mediated through metta. And can I ask if Charita is still here, or if I is that okay?
There is another question by, oh, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Okay, thank you.
There is another question by Juhi Patel.
Yes, I see.
Yep.
All right, so her question is, there was mention about Guru Sadhu Shastra. Want to understand how the teachings of Sadhu differ from teachings of Guru. So ideally, they don't differ exactly, but one example that Naveen Krishna Prabhu referred to, for instance, was that of the 12 Mahajanas, some of them are brahmacharis and some of them are grihastas. So grihastas may have expertise in how to run household affairs, and brahmacharis may have expertise in how to be monks, for instance. So that those are two different levels of expertise. So it may be that a guru is of one type, and that the person who is the disciple may be of another type. So that's one example. That so then if one wants to know, like, you know, how to run one's household, or how to relate with one's wife and children, then one may ask a sadhu who has experience of that and expertise in that, and rather than asking, suppose one has a guru who is a Naishtika brahmachari, meaning that they never married in their life and they were always a brahmachari and then became a sannyasi without ever having become a householder. So that's an example that, so it's not that the sadhu is exactly teaching something different, it's that, so dakshata, being daksha or expert, is one of the 26 qualities of a devotee, and there's different expertise in different areas. So that's one aspect where having multiple sadhus is helpful. And another aspect is that there's teaching by example as well as instruction. So different sadhus may have been in a situation that is closer to ours than the guru. So we can read about their lives and we can see what they did in those situations. And so we can read that, you know, someone was in this situation. So for instance, this situation that I just described of, you know, Parvati defending Lord Shiva, you know, suppose that, you know, our guru has never, we've never seen our guru doing that, and then the guru left the world. So we may see, well, suppose I feel like I need to do that. How do I do that? You know, in what situations? Then, you know, you look, has anyone ever done that? And then, you know, how does, it's actually something very delicate. So it's actually more helpful to get guidance from people who are more closer to our own circumstances. And then the other thing is that, so in order to know who is a guru in the first place, so there's reading the Shastra, which we can do, reading the scriptures, and we see that there's these 26 qualities of a devotee, and, you know, we look for, does the guru have those qualities? We try to ask them questions and see if they can resolve our doubts and so forth. And we like their talks, but then also there's also what do other sadhus who are their peers, how do they relate to them? There's their peers or their seniors. So we can look at that. That's also, there's this tripod of Guru Sadhu Shastra. So if there have been instances where someone has had a group of their own followers, and then they have, there's instances in history where they have given some interpretation of scripture, and they've told all their followers to interpret the scripture that way, and then their followers are all interpreting it that way, and then it turns out that they themselves had some issue. So the way that, you know, one can avoid that is see that all of these are, they're like a tripod. So like something that is standing on 2 legs is not stable, but something that is standing on 3 legs is stable. So similarly, this tripod, this gives us stable a stable shelter of knowledge is that it's standing on three legs: the Guru, the Sadhu, and the Shastra. And it's a deep topic. So I hope that partially answered the question.
Yes, Mataji, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I think we are done with the questions. If anybody else has anything. Okay. Thank you very much, Mataji, for the wonderful class. And thanks for accepting the invitation and enlightening us. And it's very nice to hear from you again. So, and the announcements as far as concerned, Tuesday is Ekadashi, which is the last Ekadashi of Purushottam month. And we have a 6 hours live Kirtan at Columbus Sankirtan Party Facebook page. And it'll be live telecasted from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. And please do join, because as it is, this will be the last of the Purushottam month's Ekadashi. So please do join, and we'll join on the next week, Sunday after this. So thank you all for joining, and thank you so much. We'll just end the class by saying Vaishnava pranams. Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.